Started out my journey as a creative. Even though I studied economics, I always had the creative bug, and I started my journey as a fashion writer. I was also a blogger, and I've always been designing even from like a young age. So it was no surprise that I started my fashion business right after university. But it wasn't necessarily easy for me. So I've always had the entrepreneurship bug. I love the idea of creating something out of nothing into something that's bigger than you. I mean, I saw my dad do it, and it was just a natural like transition for me to go from school to running my own business. But for a lot of creatives like myself, you have to sort of manage, it's like two opposite sides trying to like merge into one. So as a creative, you kind of want to be limitless and you don't want to put boundaries on your creativity. The beauty of creativity is just being able to explore and bring out all these ideas and imaginations that you have in your mind. But as a CEO, your job is to be focused, is to be clear on your objectives, it's to drive the operations of the business strategically. So having to balance those two sides, it's critical to the success of your business. Trust me, I've been running my business for 10 years now, and it definitely hasn't been easy to manage both my creative side and my operational CEO side. So in this video, we're going to be going through how you can balance it. I've done this for 10 years and it's still a journey, but I've been able to narrow down some things that will definitely help you balance your creative and your CEO side. So the very first thing is to have structure. As a creative, you might struggle with time management. It's so important for you to have a defined schedule and a defined routine. This will help you to balance the two sides properly. For everything that you're doing in your business, there's a role assigned to it. It's very important to know the different roles that you play in your business. I'll give an example. If you're like an artist and you're doing everything yourself, from actually drawing the art to produce to putting it on the website to writing like the product copy to responding to emails and to managing the social media page. There's going to be administrative tasks and there's going to be management tasks that's involved in managing your art business. So it's very important for you to write every single thing out and know what time is assigned to the different tasks. Time management is so important. And it's also important to have tools that will help you to manage your time effectively. Simple tools like even the notes on your iPhone or your Google Calendar or Notion are some of the tools that you can use to help you manage these things effectively well. So with my Google Calendar, there's something I say, if it's not on my Google Calendar, it's probably not for the day. So I use my notes, and the notes, I love the update that the notes app has where you can sort of tick the task that you've done in the day. That just really helps me to know that my day is being productive. So it's very important for you to actually outline the different tasks that you have and make sure that you have them listed out and that you're seeing to each. In prioritizing your tasks, it's very important to balance your creative and administrative tasks. So the admin stuff sometimes can be a bit boring. I mean, it could be like bank stuff, like bank runs, or like your tax stuff and things like that. Things like that are not exciting to do, but you have to learn to balance those things. I can't overemphasize being the importance of being organized. Being organized just helps you manage your stress and it just helps you live a better life as a creative CEO. I, for instance, have struggled with routines. Like, I'm just not naturally someone that likes to do things with a routine. I like to sort of wake up in the morning and say, okay, how does this day feel to me? But if you're always like doing things based on how you're feeling, you're probably not going to get a lot of things done. So being organized, having tools, whether it's the Notion app or it's your Google Calendar or it's your Notes app or a physical planner or a digital planner, having these things, a medium where you can write everything that needs to be done, it just helps you stay on track and it keeps you efficient. And in the long run, you're going to enjoy having a routine is not necessarily fun, but it just gives you more time to do the things that you actually want to do. The next thing is to hire in the area of your weakness. So you'll definitely have strengths and you have weaknesses. Even if you tend to favor your creative side, even in the creative side, there might be different areas where you do things better than other things. For instance, I'll still give the example of the artist. For instance, you might be very good at sketching, but you might not necessarily be good at like framing the work or like putting the work on the canvas. That's a random example. For me, for instance, I'm someone I love to design. I love to draw. I love to create, but I don't necessarily like to sew. I don't like to cut, even though I know how to do these things. So I hired people to do that. And aside from that, there's also like the management area. So that is more of like the creative, and in the management slash CEO side of things, I'm not necessarily a people person. So it was natural that my first management hire was in HR. So there's just different things. It could be that you're not good with numbers, or you're not good with bookkeeping and all that. So it's very important to understand your own weaknesses and your strengths. And in the areas where you're not so strong, it's important to hire or outsource. So there are now small boutique agencies that you can actually use for things like your bookkeeping, your accounting, your HR, and sales, even customer service, even like there's so many agencies now that you can sort of outsource these things to. So if you're not hiring full-time staff, definitely consider outsourcing or using freelancers. You can use freelancers for things like social media management, copywriting, editing, and things like that. So it's very important to know what areas you can successfully handle yourself or efficiently handle yourself, and the areas that you may need help. Outsource, hire accordingly. The next point I will mention is to protect your mind. Your mind is one of the greatest tools that you have as a creative. It's so important that you're very protective of it. To be protective of it means to be very mindful of the things that you take in. So you have to make sure that you're creating time for the things that you actually love, because the thing about creativity is that it can't come out of a forced space. It's very, very easy to enter into a rut or to be overwhelmed or to be burnt out because you're carrying too many things. So it's so important to take breaks as often as you can. It's important as a creative to change your environment regularly. It's also important to just take time to rest. You don't have to do everything in one day. And that's why like the previous point I mentioned about having structure and being organized, that's where it comes in. Because when you have structure, when you're organized, when you're outsourcing your areas of weakness, it gives you time to really do the things that you're really good at, and it helps you thrive, and it will help your business in the long run. The next and the final point is having a community of creatives. As a creative, it's so important to find like-minded people, people that understand exactly what you're going through, people that you can go to when you're having issues or you're having problems or you need advice for something, people that you can collaborate with. When you can find these people on social media, you can find these people when you volunteer for certain projects that are of interest to you, or when you go for like networking events. So it's in this area, it's important to follow pages and like tribes and communities that are of interest to you, because you're most likely going to find other people that are like you on those types of platforms. For instance, in the Lagos fashion community, we have events like Lagos Fashion and Design Week, we have GT Bank Fashion Week, we have Woven Threads, we have just certain niche events that people that likely love fashion will be at. So in those kind of events, you can find people like you can network, exchange numbers. It's so important to constantly be expanding your network of creatives, because it will really serve you in the long run, because chances are you're going to find other creatives like you that are also trying to run successful businesses. So that brings me to the end of the video. I hope that you found all the points that I mentioned helpful. It's very important for you to balance your creative side with your CEO side. I've been doing this for 10 years. I've been able to run a successful, profitable business as a result. It's going to be a constant balancing act, but I believe that with these points, you're going to be able to you'll make it. So if you have anything you want to share, or you even have more points on what I've just shared, or you want to ask questions, please don't hesitate to leave a comment below and give this video a thumbs up if you found it helpful, and share, subscribe, like, all the good stuff. I'll see you in my next video.